Hello. I wonder how many people could have even guessed that this is what I would be playing. I'm kind of frustrated with myself. I had this mental block and I kept getting distracted with more and more games. Most recently, I played one I Wanna Be the Guy fan game that I'd never heard of before, because the topic popped up again in just my YouTube recommendations. I went back to the Delicious Fruit forums where I got this game, and before I get carried away with my ramblings, I want to say I highly recommend Justice Guy if you remotely like precision platformers. Although this game is largely focused on combat and boss fights. If that sounds remotely fun to you and you like I Wanna Be the Guy fan games, or I Wanna Be the Guy specifically, but not so much for its tone, and I guess it's almost comedic appeal of the original I Wanna Be the Guy, right? If you enjoy the gameplay, then this is an excellent game that's obviously heavily inspired by I Wanna Be the Guy. Anyway, where was I? Today I decided to force myself to start this playthrough, because I just realized that I would stall for another week or a month, and I would just lose the habit. Even though I spend the vast majority of my time playing games, I might as well do these playthroughs. It's fun. It might go somewhere. But to keep a long story very short about I Wanna Be the Guy, I was watching tons of people play the original I Wanna Be the Guy when during the height of its popularity, basically. And because of that, I followed all sorts of people on YouTube and other places. And I found out about all sorts of fan games after the fact. The obvious one is I Wanna Be the Fan game. I think that was the first prominent one. Then there was all sorts of other stuff focused on barrage bullet pattern avoidance, synced to music. That's a pretty major genre. And a lot of the time, I felt that I didn't actually want to play those games myself. I just admired people who dedicated themselves to beating some of the most ridiculous challenges I've seen in them. But this is one game that snuck up on me through one of the people that I follow, who just decided to stream it one day, and I decided to give it a shot, and I'm glad I did, because this might be one of the best fan games ever made. One amazing thing about it is I'm pretty sure all of its art is original, and the developers had a whole art team working on it. The music is not original, it's all ripped, but that's already pretty unusual that the actual assets are not, at least for the most part. Right now I'm questioning if the rock that the kid is standing on here is just a digitized photo of a rock, but you get what I mean. It's not just sprites ripped from other games. When it comes to the devs, I don't know too much about them. I think they're Korean. I presume South Korean, because if not, then I don't think I would be playing this right now. And I've only heard of one of the two lead developers. That would be Influka, whose name came up in I Wanna Kill the Camellia 3, a fan game that I have no idea if I actually want to commit time to. It's sort of like Mount Everest, and other people have already climbed to the top. That doesn't... Now, unlike going to the actual Mount Everest today, it would still be impressive if I climbed to the top of Camellia 3, but I don't know. I think there are a lot of other things I want to do before I commit to something insane like that. And I haven't ever played Camellia 3. I don't know if I'm capable of beating it. But when I first played Justice Guy, it was under the pretense of, let's just see how far I can get and if I enjoy the process. I had already convinced myself that I would never beat Justice Guy. And for a while it looked that way. But I have beaten... I've seen the credits. Let's just keep it vague for now. Which is why I'm doing this playthrough. Now, without any more yapping, I think that was kind of all over the place, but hey, if you're listening to this right now, I decided that it was good enough. Before I start, I guess I can go through this. There's not much in the way of options, although I still like the way this game is presented in terms of fan games. You can remap the controls, but it's kind of limited. It's one of those remappings where the game just goes through the actions in order, and you press a key to map it to that key. Right now I have up, down, left, right on the arrow keys. Z is jump, X is shoot. I think C is a skip action that doesn't come up very often. And shift switches, cycles through weapons. I'll show that off. I don't want to go through the whole process again, so I'll just leave it as is. I know what portraits means. I do not need to read the description of the option. And I think its default is what I want it to be, but I understand why you can change it. There's also always and off. Yeah, I know exactly what all of those settings mean. I think I'll just start and I'll explain how the game works in the tutorial. I lost all of my data twice, so save slot 1 right now is me trying to get back up to the point I was at. I can't really say how far into the game I am, but you might get an approximation if you look at my death count and time, maybe. I wasn't wasting any time. I was trying to get as far as the game, as far into the game as I could, as fast as I could. It's a bit funny that time is in seconds, so you would have to divide it by 60 twice to get the hours. But it works, I suppose. Save slot 2, I just did a little bit of a test. That's why there's one death there. The game just sort of starts at the map screen. I kind of like this map, but right now there isn't anything to talk about here. I like the illustration of it. It sort of reminds me of some Flash games I played years ago. Now here I want to explain all of this. I will be playing on normal mode. There's also Angel mode, which I do not recommend. It gives you hit points, whereas in normal mode you die in one hit. And it also really simplifies boss fights. It might do something to the stages as well, but those are the things that I know for certain. In particular, I know that Angel mode bastardizes the final boss of the game, which is why I refuse to play it. Although there will be an exception to Angel mode later. Put a pin in that if you can even remember for that long. Now this, I want to explain a little bit of insight I have as to the developers of this game. Oh, one of whom I didn't even mention. It's Influka and Gustav. I have never heard of Gustav before. No idea what he's been involved in. But I think the two of them, I am interested in all of their work moving forward just because of this game. So, type. This is... It has to do with your character. So IWTTT stands for I Wanna Take The Timemachine. I think. I wanna take the time machine. Yeah, that makes sense. Essentially, I'm pretty sure that Influka made one series of fan games called that. Maybe. I actually forget who made which series, but there's two series of fan games made by each of these developers. One is I Wanna Take the Time Machine. The other is I Wanna Be the Best Guy. The difference in character selection here is that Best Guy has no control over the height of his jump. It is one consistent height no matter how long you hold the jump button, which is really weird, but I have to assume that Justice Guy is playable with either character and beatable with either character. I'm going to assume that Best Guy is harder. I just didn't know that there was a difference or what this option even meant. So I just played with the Time Machine character, who I think my mouse should be visible. It's the character above, directly to the right of this option. And the character below is Best Guy, I'm pretty sure. I kind of want to look into one of their other games now. I think one of them, I forget if it was Time Machine or Best Guy, but it had some pretty cool boss fights, and I think I recognize some stuff that appears in this game. So I'm just kind of curious now. But who knows if I'll ever play that. Anyway, I've rambled for long enough. It'll be I want to take the Time Machine character, normal mode. That's this entire playthrough. This is the tutorial. I can't really read the actual tutorial messages, but I can explain everything that I know about the game. You can duck, which stops you from moving left or right. I don't know if it makes your hitbox smaller, because there's never an instance where you can avoid something by ducking. I think ducking is just a state that leads into other actions, is all. You can aim up, and if you've played I Wanna Be the Guy, this weapon might look familiar. I have to say, I think I heard something about someone doing a full translation of Justice Guy, but it was just a compilation in a forum somewhere. I haven't found that forum post, but I am kind of curious about the game's story. Yes, it has a story of some semblance, and it's at least a little bit interesting. I just pressed the weapon swap button. I think the skip button is one that I can't do anything with, although it does say shift down there, so maybe it's specifically talking about the weapon swap button. It confuses me slightly, but other than shift, Z and X, I mentioned C, and right now C doesn't do anything. It's the third action button is very contextual, essentially. I believe this character sprite right here is a Bloodborne reference, and you can also see a bonfire up there under the death counter. I take it the devs are fans of FromSoft, which is all well and good. Oh yeah, here's one example. You can talk to NPCs, though I think this is one of the only examples of that in the entire game. If by some chance someone knows Korean, I would be very curious to know what's going on and what's being said, like here. If I had to hazard a guess, this character is explaining the basics of the plot, because that would make sense. I'm kind of mystified by the title of the game as well. I've beaten it, and I don't understand why it's called I Wanna Be the Justice Guy, unless I have to apply heavy interpretation and think that we're fighting against some evil force for the sake of good, not for any other reason. But that doesn't really tell you much. So I guess the third action button is act, and then the weapon swap button is considered the skip action? I never thought about that much. It's a little strange. But yeah, there are 4 weapons, and I don't exactly remember if... No, I think the tutorial ends without making you use any of the weapons, so it was probably explained in the messages that I can't read so far. Yeah, press up at a bonfire to save the game. It's just like a save point in any fan game, but it's a bonfire. At first I was wondering if allusions to Dark Souls were ironic, but I think they're sincere because of some more overt influences later, and because of the use of actual music from the series, which I think might include what we're hearing right now. I respect From Software enough, but I'm not the biggest fan. I've implied as much in past videos, but in this case, the influence of FromSoft has no adverse effects on the gameplay, so I have nothing to complain about. This is hardly... It's a precision platformer with a lot of boss fights. It's not derivative at all of FromSoft, which is great. That blue thing above the spikes is a jump refresher, because if by some chance you don't know, you generally have a double jump, and I want to be the guy, and items that restore the use of your double jump in midair are a pretty common thing. So here I would have to do... It's second nature to press the R button to restart when I die. Maybe I'll let that play out this time. There's still a splatter of blood. This is very similar to the game over screen in most fan games. There we go. I think this is describing an action that I didn't want to show off earlier, because I remembered this. While ducking, holding a horizontal direction and pressing jump all at the same time makes you slide, which makes you move really fast. You can instantly turn around during the slide, and it's extremely useful. I think I'll just explain the weapons now so that when I get into the real levels I don't have to ramble anymore and I can just concentrate. Although I do want to point out this area over here, which is maybe kind of interesting. And just to address the elephant on screen, those squares at the bottom will not be relevant until close to the end of the playthrough, so just be aware. I know they're there, I know what they're for. The other elephant on screen might have been my mouse cursor, which, if it is visible, I should have taken it away. Don't worry, I'll make sure that doesn't happen again. So, the weapons. There are 4 of them, and I used the handgun already. You have to press the fire button for each projectile. It kinda sucks, and I pretty much never use it. Just because of a speedrun, I know one good use case for it, and that's it. Generally, the machine gun is much better. You saw me absent-mindedly fire it earlier. It's fully automatic, you just hold down the fire button. Has a slight random spread to it, which is almost never relevant. It's kind of just generically good. Next up, the shotgun. This is probably the most powerful weapon in the game. it has the highest DPS. It's an area of effect, so that sprite you see, it can hit any number of enemies in that area. And I think every frame of that animation deals damage, if I understand correctly. And finally, the rocket launcher, which is very slow firing. But it does... I can't give you numbers on the rest of the weapons, but I know for a fact that the rocket launcher does exactly 30 damage per rocket. That'll be relevant later. Something kind of cool that I like is these weapons. I will now fire a rocket, hold down the fire button, and switch to the machine gun. They have a global cooldown, so you can switch weapons on the fly, but there are no Doom Eternal shenanigans where you just cancel the recovery of every single slow-firing weapon all of the time. If you commit to firing a rocket, you have to wait out the recovery period before you can do something else, and it feels like the game is pretty tightly designed around this. I guess it's closer to classic Doom in that way, except you have infinite ammo on everything, and the weapons just have strengths and weaknesses. Except the handgun. Like I said, it sucks, but I will use it at one point. Oh, these different colored pickups that, if we look at them as rounded arrows, they're pointing down. They sort of just push you into the ground, and you can't jump past them. They're going to cancel your upward momentum and give you high downward momentum. So whenever those pop up, that's what the deal with them is. And you can infinitely jump in water, by the way. And this splashing effect, I think, is an example of why this game is so impressive, because that's a surprising amount of polish compared to most fan games where there isn't even any feedback that you're entering the water. That's not to say that fan games are cheap and lazy or anything, which, if they are, it's intentionally so because it's funny, and it's easy to produce fan games that way. It's to say that Justice Guy is particularly impressive relative to most fan games from a production standpoint, I think, anyway. And now, getting close to 30 minutes, I'm done with the frickin' tutorial. I just didn't know how to structure any of that. I'm gonna try to do one area per video, if possible, and I guess this video is gonna be extra long, because I can't shut up. First area is the Suburb. I believe this music is from Sonic 06. You can go backwards, but there's nothing here. It's kind of a weird bit of level design. One would expect the collectible to be there. These traffic cones are spikes. I like that they sometimes have that golden top just so the sprites don't get repetitive. Something neat, these soldiers, until you're close enough for them to spot you, you can't hurt them, and a lot of enemies work that way, so that you have to actually get in harm's way. So when you see that exclamation mark, they're about to attack you, and you can hurt them. This right here is a landmine. If you touch it, you die. Here's another... oh. With that gun, I was actually close enough, but there are times where you can try to shoot at them. Like right here. I'm far enough away that I can't hit that turret. So I have to let it shoot its homing rockets first. The soldiers just fire those singular aimed projectiles you saw there, but they're pretty quick, and there's no warning for the moment they're about to fire, so it's easy to die if you're too close. In general, I would say that the platforming stages in Justice Guy are competent and fun enough, but they're not really the main draw. Though occasionally there's some fun shortcuts to be taken. Now I want to showcase, you saw how long it took for me to destroy that turret with the machine gun, but this one blows up from a single rocket. Oh. I'm gonna focus up to try and beat this big tank here. I forgot about the turret, though. Essentially, the rocket launcher pierces armor. Armor is a sort of hidden mechanic. I don't know exactly how armor works, if it just reduces the damage from other weapons, or if it gives the enemy some sort of iframes. Both would make sense, because I'm pretty sure that the machine gun and the shotgun both damage the enemy rapidly. The point is, the rocket launcher will always deal 30 damage no matter what. And it's not that enemies like that turret that was up there have a ton of life. It's that they have very little life, but a lot of armor. They obviously have 30 or less life if they die to one rocket. You get what I'm saying. I'm over-explaining. There we go. The reticule indicates where that volley will start, but the volley of gunfire will move towards you, whatever direction you are from its starting point. So you get how that works. It's the overlap with the homing rockets that causes problems. Something I didn't explain in the tutorial because I forgot. You can moonwalk, and I think this is kind of a cool control scheme for keyboard. The way you do this is you hold down one movement direction and then the other. And you'll face whatever the first button you pressed, whatever direction that is, while walking in the direction of the second button. So you can move away from an enemy while shooting at it, which is just nice for dealing more damage, but I think it's pretty cool. It sort of feels like strafing, just in a 2D game rather than a 3D one. And you can even strafe slide, which is combining strafing with the slide input. That's kind of ridiculous, because you're pressing 4 buttons simultaneously to do that. But that's also very useful for when just moonwalking is not enough to avoid attacks. Anyway, moving on. The shotgun can very effectively get rid of these landmines. And it can also shoot through platforms, assuming the enemy's vulnerable. I do think the weapons, the 3 main weapons that you're intended to use anyway, I think the handgun might just be here for legacy purposes. I'm not sure it has any benefits. But the other 3 weapons are pretty well balanced, and I like that. And that's the end of that level. Yeah, this game has a ranking system. It's not really good, though. It mostly means something on a speedrun, because it does save your rank. You could have seen it here. But I'm pretty sure score is based on time and deaths, so score doesn't really mean anything. If you beat a level quickly without dying too much, you'll get the best rank. That's all there is to it. And in some cases, there's no practical difference between beating a level after restarting a bunch of times and beating it on your first try. It would just mean quitting to the map screen and starting the level again. This is mostly for This is mostly true for boss fights, I would say. Now that I think about it, there might be exactly one instance in which the ranking system does something interesting to a boss fight. Yeah, this is not a game where you really care about that, I would say. I think I remember what I would do here. Something I forgot to mention about the controls. Is it obvious that I didn't write any notes for the start of this playthrough? Because I didn't. But, although you can remap the directional buttons, jump, shoot, action, and switch weapons, or I guess the skip button, if you want to swap to a specific weapon, you need to press one of the 4 number keys. Not on the numpad, on the top. Beneath the function keys, you know what I'm talking about. You can't remap those, so I'm actually moving one finger up to where those are to switch weapons in the heat of battle. I got used to it after a while. Maybe you could map the other buttons so that it works better with that, like maybe QWE. Yeah, that would be smart. Maybe I should have done that. But I'm used to this. It's just something worth mentioning, I suppose. So right now I would have to do... almost. I have to do something silly here to execute my plan. Almost. There's bound to be a better way. Oh yeah, I also don't have to switch, I can just dodge and use the shotgun, of course. This should be fine. If I'm not fumbling the controls. Maybe I could have used some more practice. Part of the point of me trying to replay to the end game on file 1 was for practice sake, but maybe it didn't work the way I wanted it to. I think the rocket launcher should be good here if I... figure out how to dodge the homing missile. Yeah, the machine gun also doesn't hit close enough, low enough to the ground when you duck, whereas the shotgun just hits the ground no matter what. Okay, I think I want to move forward, maybe? Yeah. It's a bit of a multitasking routine. That's a nice combination of enemies, though. I do like that a lot. Pretty easy jump. I have to say I am terrible at Needle, which is a subgenre of I Wanna Be the Guy fan games. I am just not good enough at controlling the kid precisely in midair. I'm sure that'll change if I play something at least close to Camellia 3, but again, that's still in the realm of the hypothetical. I think I want to shoot the first one. And then I should be fine. Yeah. Ah. The restarts are so quick that death doesn't faze me in the slightest in games like this. It's something I like about them, actually. If you don't shoot the first turret in that previous section, it's going to be tough to get through just by extra jumps and mid-air navigation. Now, this is an example of a shortcut. You can see there are actually 2 checkpoints. I'm pretty sure that going through here is faster, so... well... if I can pull it off. Levels do have a little bit of replay value because of stuff like this. Nice. There are just more enemies up there. Landmines littering the place. It would just take longer to get through that safely. And here's a jump with these things. Just don't touch them. You'll be fine. I think that's a decent enough rank. No, it's the same as the previous. I am yammering on, so it's understandable. I don't have too much to say about these first levels, because you've seen all the elements already. Well, there's a new one here. I know that. How do I approach this again? It should be fresh in my mind, and yet... Right, I think I just ignore the landmine. I just jump over it. And I kill that soldier before he starts causing problems, and then I just stream the helicopters. Yep. But these levels are really fun. I do enjoy them. I don't think the levels alone are going to win any awards from the fan game community, but I don't think they'll get the most ridicule either. I like the ceiling here to catch you with the one bullet. It's sneaky. But about fan games in general, it's very interesting how, over the years, there's still a lot of jokes and memes and trolling in a tongue-in-cheek fashion. But a lot of games like Just This Guy here take themselves kind of seriously as just a straightforward challenge. Certain fan games definitely wouldn't give you those targeting ridicule warning indicators, and they would just let you die and figure it out. So there's an attempt to make everything fair in this game. Not that fan games being unfair is a problem. If the original I Wanna Be the Guy, I mentioned that a lot of its appeal is comedic because the trial and error traps are so ridiculous, and they're supposed to be fun and funny. You know, when the moon falls out of the sky and crushes you when you least expect it, how can you be mad at that? But you know, if a fan game isn't trying to make you laugh in the same fashion, it's just trying to challenge you, I think it looks something like Just This Guy. Right, that is where you land, so I probably do want to use the shotgun. And now you're forced to dodge a soldier while killing this tank. It's pretty neat. I gotta say, when I first played Just This Guy, I was really bad at fan games. And in fact, I don't even recall if I've played any before this, so this is a hell of a game to start with. It's definitely set my expectations really high. But I think it's also prepared me for a lot of the difficulty I can expect from fan games. I think I could have gone straight to the platform on the first go. But yeah, the jump refreshers respawn. Alright, that's the end. The highest rank is S, for the record. Which, whenever that's the top rank, or if S is above A in a ranking system, I always think, you're familiar with Devil May Cry, aren't you? Every red icon on the map is a boss. I think this is a good showcase of what to expect from the boss fights in this game. Including kind of a suspenseful intro. The portrait setting is for the boss intro specifically. I just want to show that it drives off screen if you die. So we have why am I struggling to think of how to pronounce his name? It's not even a name, it's a title, right? Premier? Anyway, he's piloting this thing, Velorum. Let's see how many tries this is gonna take me. Oh, by the way, you can press escape at any bonfire to go back to the map. I want to use the shotgun for as long as I can. And I kind of want to show off, if you run into the left side of the screen, you die. And the screen is scrolling. If you stand still, the floor moves you in that direction. So yeah. Right. That little white arrow you saw, get used to it, because it's used to telegraph a lot of different attacks in this game. I could have mentioned it earlier with the missiles, but I was too busy reading them to comment. Alright, I think the muzzle flashes from the machine gun can hurt you. The slide is very useful to avoid that claw. I think it's pretty much necessary. To avoid the charge, you just need to slide towards the left side, but not too far, because the screen border kills you, like I said. This boss has no armor, by the way. Otherwise, I'd be using the rocket launcher. That's one thing. If something doesn't have armor, the rocket launcher is kind of useless. I guess there's another example. A more trollish fan game would have those boxes and the boss intro kill you, probably. There we go. At least that attack lets you do a lot of damage. This is the desperation move of this boss. Damn it. I thought I was far enough. It just continuously does that until you kill the boss. It only happens when it's low on life. And I think it doesn't take damage until that final attack starts. I don't know why I'm saving. It's not doing anything. Force of habit, I guess. If I understand correctly, it's really funny that the muzzle flash kills you. It kind of makes sense. The bullets would be traveling through there, so fair enough. I didn't even comment earlier, but There isn't much in the way of contact damage in this game either, and that's kinda cool. So the soldiers are meant to shoot you dead. There you can see how the life bar doesn't deplete during the transition period. Hey, I did it! Yeah, if I'm right that most, if not all, of the art in this game is original, I really like this detailed sprite of a weird tank war machine thing. Right, for a moment I was wondering where the next level is, and it's right there. Now, to see if I'm going to keep or scrap this recording, I'm gonna watch it back. Or if not, next time I'll do Mountain. Thank you for watching.